Senate will come to order. Senators, please be in your seats. The clerk will call the roll.
Alley, Baumgardner, Billinger, Bowers, Clays, Corson, Dietrich, Dahl, Erickson, Estes, Fagg, Faust-Godot, Francisco, Gossage, Haley, Hawk, Hildebrand, Holland, Holscher, Kirshen, Close, Longbein, Masterson, McGinn, Olson, O'Shea, Peck, Peterson, Petty, Pittman, Pyle, Steffen, Straub, Sullentrop, Sykes, Thompson, Tyson, Ware, Warren, Wilborn.
Senators and your guests, please rise and give prayerful attention to the chaplain.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, in the midst of uncertainty, thank you for providing something that is certain. And when the state of our being is unstable, we're grateful that we can find in you a firm foundation. You have provided us with the security of an anchor that will keep us from aimlessly drifting in the madness of this life. You said in Matthew chapter 22, verses 36 through 40, that if we love you with everything we've got, and then love others with the same love we have for ourselves, all of our necessities, you will provide. Therefore, our greatest security rests in holding on to the anchor, the word of your promise. Although we're living in a hectic world, keep us mindful that your precious promises are strong and secure. And anything that you make secure cannot be destabilized, destroyed, or removed from us. In 1 Corinthians 13, you said love is patient with others, kind to people, and that it grips a host of other characteristics. So, Lord, let the attributes of love for you and for one another be the firm anchor that we hold dear to our hearts. Let the love and peace of God begin. Let it begin right here. In the loving name of Jesus, I offer this prayer. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Introduction of bills and concurrent resolutions, the clerk will read.
Senate Bill 140 by Senator McGinn, an act concerning the Kansas State Employees Health Care Commission. Senate Bill 141 by Committee on Judiciary, an act enacting the Kansas Uniform Directed Trust Act. Senate Bill 142 by Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources, an act concerning wildlife parks and recreation. Senate Bill 143 by Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources, an act concerning agriculture. Senate Bill 144 by Committee on Education, an act concerning education. Senate Bill 145 by Committee on Ways and Means, an act concerning the Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism.
This constitutes introduction of Senate Bill 140 through Senate Bill 145. Please note references of bills on page 1 and 2 of the calendar. Messages from the House. The clerk will read.
Announcing passage of HB 2029, sub HB 2049, HB 2071, HB 2077, HB 2082, HB 2079, HB 2090. House Bill 2077, an act concerning the Kansas Criminal Justice Reform Commission. HB 2071, an act concerning crimes, punishment, and criminal procedure. HB 2090, an act concerning elected officials. Sub HB 2029, an act concerning crimes, punishment, and criminal procedure. Sub HB 2049, an act concerning a legislative division of post-obit. HB 2082, an act concerning the Crime Victims Compensation Board. HB 2079, an act concerning state officers.
This constitutes introduction of those bills previously read. Introduction of original motions and Senate resolutions. The clerk will read.
Senate Resolution 1708, a resolution recognizing February 5th as National Wear Red Day and the importance of the ongoing fight against heart disease and stroke among women.
Chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to ask the reader to please read.
Whereas cardiovascular diseases are the #1 killer of women in the United States, and whereas cardiovascular disease kills one woman almost every 80 seconds in the United States, and whereas heart disease and stroke can adversely affect all women at any age, and whereas heart attacks are on the rise among women across younger age groups, and whereas younger women are less likely than older women to be aware of the warning signs of heart attacks and strokes, and whereas cardiovascular disease kills 1 in 3 women, despite the fact that about 80% of cardiac events can be prevented through education and lifestyle changes, and whereas all women are encouraged to move more, eat smart, and manage their blood pressure to reduce their risk of cardiovascular diseases, and whereas the Go Red for Women movement of the American Heart Association motivates women to learn about their family history and to meet with healthcare provider to determine their risk for cardiovascular diseases and stroke, and whereas as a trusted, passionate, and relevant force in eradicating heart disease and stroke in women, the American Heart Association's Go Red for Women movement remains steadfast and committed to meeting the comprehensive health needs of women at every stage of life, and whereas by increasing awareness and empowering women to reduce their risk for cardiovascular diseases, we can save thousands of lives each year. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the State of Kansas that we recognize February 5th, 2021 as National Wear Red Day and urge all citizens to show their support of the ongoing fight against heart disease and stroke among women by wearing the color red.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Many of you that have been here in years past have heard some of my story about heart disease. The one thing that is missing today is our colleague, Bud Estes, and I always appreciated looking forward to seeing his red outfit for the day. And he really dressed up to celebrate Go Red for Women Day. I'd just like to share a few comments, and it has really to do with women and heart disease, which is the secret killer of women, and it's the #1 killer. We often hear about cancer, and I'm glad that we've done a lot of great research with cancer, and they've been able to help many, many people. But it's a long journey for the most part, whereas heart disease can hit suddenly, quickly, and be over. I wanted to go back, and what made me start thinking about my own possible health had to do with when I was a freshman in college. I remember a friend of mine, her mother, died suddenly at the Kansas Coliseum as they were leaving a game. Her mother was in her early 40s, and it was quite a shock to all of us. We couldn't believe such a young woman would die of heart disease, massive heart attack, just like that. Over time, I've learned things about my family genetics. My father's father died at 16, heart disease. Later on, my father had bypass surgery in his 50s. My brother had stents in his 50s, bypassed by the time he was 60. My mother's side of the family, my mother, some of you know that my mother is 90 and she is an anomaly and a twin, and we sometimes wonder if she was switched in the hospital. But her siblings all passed away of heart disease. So, I started thinking about this when I was in my 40s because of my family genetics. Your family genetics are so key and important when you think about how you should manage your health and your lifestyle. So I started, I've always been a pretty good eater. I mean, not quantity, of course, many of you probably know that, but I try to pick and choose a healthy diet, exercise, stay very active. And so what I thought was interesting, I had a county commissioner about the same time my brother had stents, and I said, how did you figure it out? Well, we just did a treadmill in the doctor's office and told us I need to probably go see a cardiologist. So I asked my doctor about that. And she said, well, women produce false negatives. So after going to a seminar, American Heart Association in my 40s, I found out women can take an injected dye stress test on a treadmill, and you get a lot more information on that as well. So, the thing of it is, we can do as much as we can to exercise, to eat right, but so much is determined by your genetics. And what the deal is, so, when you take your Health Quest test, and I love the question about your cholesterol being over 200, well, some of us, our body loves cholesterol. Biologically, our body needs cholesterol, but many of you, your body passes it on through. Other people, your body just loves it, and it hangs out until it increases over time. I wanted to share this because you may have a mother, a sister, a daughter, or a friend. And what quite often happens with women, no knock to men, but a lot of times we're taking care of the men, whether it's our father, our husband, and we're discarding the risk or the possible symptoms that you may have. Women do not have the kind of symptoms that men have, so they ignore it. They ignore the signs, and so many often die suddenly. A couple of years ago, after I'd been doing this stress test, there's another test I'd like for you all to know in case you have any family members. It's called a calcium score. It costs less than $100. It's basically an MRI picture of your heart. So I had that done a couple of years ago, and I flunked. So I immediately went to see a cardiologist and have been working with a cardiologist. And after a period of time, I ended up having to get some medical attention to help in that area. And I feel that I'm very blessed because I had that opportunity. And Mr. President, the reason I wanted to share this with all of you, I know you have moms, I know you have sisters, I know you have wives, and don't ignore the signs. I have also distributed on your desk information from the American Heart Association, so you might want to look through that. And in case you know of somebody that could be possibly struggling, but mostly pay attention to your heart history and pay attention to any signs you may have, and go see a doctor and see if you need any medical help. So with that, Mr. President, I appreciate the time and the attention from the body that today we are celebrating Go Red for Women, and I appreciate all the colleagues that did wear red today to recognize that. And Mr. President, I move an emergency be declared, the rules suspended, and Senate Resolution 1708 be adopted by voice vote.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion's adopted. Before recessing, are there announcements? Senator from Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Upon recess, the Democrat caucus will caucus in our regular room 287 North.
Senator from Sedgwick, Majority Leader Solentraub. I think we're going to yield to Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Faust-Guido.
Mr. President, I just wanted to wish Senator Powell happy birthday, the senator from Brown, happy birthday. If we could acknowledge his birthday.
Senator from Sedgwick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Republicans will caucus in our normal room on 5th floor. I move the Senate recess to the sound of the gavel.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We are in recess. Senate will come to order. Chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Solentrop.
Mr. President, I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of bills on the calendar under the heading of General Orders.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Chair appoints the senator from Miami, Senator Baumgartner, to preside over the committee.
The Senate, having resolved itself into the Committee of the Whole, will now consider those items listed on the calendar under the heading of General Orders. We will now turn our attention to Senate Bill 40. The chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Kirshen, to explain the bill and to adopt the committee report. Senator Kirshen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we adopt the committee report.
You heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 40 is regarding conservation districts, and the state of Kansas has 105 counties, and there are 103 conservation districts mixed into all those counties. And what they do is they provide soil conservation and those kinds of help for farmers that want to put in waterways, watersheds, soil conservation, windrows and all that kind of thing. So they've been in operation for a long time. But Senate Bill 40 provides a cleanup and an updating of all statutes that are administered by the Kansas Department of Agriculture, Division of Conservation. In 2012, the State Conservation Commission was merged into the Kansas Department of Agriculture. This establishes the Secretary of Agriculture as the successor of all powers previously held by the State Conservation Commission. The amendments added to the plan clarify the role of the State Conservation Commission, the Division of Conservation, and the Secretary of Agriculture. In addition, the Division of Conservation administers the Surface Mining Land Conservation and Reclamation Act, which what it does is when we had strip mining in the southeast, they was appointed to clean that up and to restore that back to productive land. We had the opponent. There were no opponents, and Madam Chairman, I do have an amendment.
Have you turned in your amendment?
I have.
What is the number?
S1028.
Senator from Sedgwick, would you like to explain your amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, I do. It's just a technical fix, really, because there was error in the way it was published. The amendment says that it was amended by the Senate Committee on page 1 in line 23 by striking 75-5.128 and inserting 74-5128. And on page 21, the same, 75.128 to 74.128.
Are there any questions on the amendment? Seeing none, you may move your amendment.
I move my amendment.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The amendment carries. We're back on the question. Are there any other questions on Senate Bill 40? Seeing none, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move when the committee rises and reports, it reports Senate Bill 40 as amended, favorable for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? No. Motion carried. At this time, we will be back with the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Kirshen, with regard to Senate Bill 38.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't realize I was next. So, Senate Bill 38, it involves the
Could you please first move
report.
the committee report? Yes.
I move to adopt the committee report. Sorry.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. You may now explain.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 38 would amend the existing remediation fund to provide for annual transferals at the amount of $50,000 from the remediation fund to the pesticide waste disposal program fund. The fund will be managed by the Kansas Department of Agriculture and would help pay for the safe collection and disposal of pesticides waste materials from any source. There's no state general fund money involved. All money from the fees come from annual environmental assessments on commercial fertilizers, grain warehouses, ag chemical registration, fertilizer registration, and pesticide dealer licenses. So the thing is totally fee funded, and that $50,000 would come into the new pesticide removal fund. Before this came about, their only money was designated for pesticide removal was EPA money that would come in once in a while, and they would use it to dispose of pesticides. The company that disposes of the pesticide waste is called Clean Harbor, and they are a certified licensed operator to dispose of toxic chemicals. There were no opponents to the bill. The proponents are the Kansas Feed and Grain Association, Kansas Agribusiness Retailer Association, Kansas Co-op Council, Department of Agriculture, KDHE, Farm Bureau, and all the grain networks. With that, I will stand for questions.
Are there any questions for the senator from Sedgwick? Seeing none, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that when the committee rises a report, it reports Senate Bill 38 favorable for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion carries. At this time, we will turn to the senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand. Will you please explain your resolution?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my Senate Resolution number 1707, it is a resolution brought to you by the Committee on Public Health and Welfare. The origins of this being presented goes back to the beginning of the session where the Public Health and Welfare Committee, me as the chair, had requested KDHE to come in and talk about the COVID-19 response that they've had with the vaccination rollout. Kansas had been frequently ranked 50th, 48th in the nation out of 50 states on rolling out their vaccinations. So part of the Public Health and Welfare Committee's oversight on that, we wanted to gain some more information on why this was happening, why Kansas was consistently in the bottom. Unfortunately, at that time, KDHE did cancel that meeting with us, so we had to postpone to a couple of weeks later. The committee sent them quite a few questions. They were delayed in getting those questions back. In the meantime, the rollout of the phases for the COVID vaccination come out. And initially, if everybody will remember, there were four phases. And in phase 2, it had incarcerated individuals in phase 2, but it had elderly people, 65 and older, in phase 3. There was a big outcry on that. There was a lot of questions asked. The administration came back, revisited their phases, and reintroduced phase 2 and moved those 65 and older into the same phase as incarcerated individuals. Then if you look at phase 3, you have people 18 to 64, if they have cancer, diabetes, emphysema, or heart disease, they're in phase 3, where an incarcerated individual is in phase 2. It gives them a higher priority than a law-abiding citizen in phase 3. This resolution by no means says do not vaccinate incarcerated individuals. What it is saying is please reprioritize them into the proper category along with the rest of the law-abiding citizens of Kansas. Guards, security officers, people that work in these correctional facilities are currently in phase 2. We believe they should be in phase 2. We believe they should be a high priority. This resolution does not say anything about taking them out of a priority where they are in phase 2. We feel that the correction officers, or I feel, and I hope my colleagues agree, that a correction officer or someone working in a correction facility should be prioritized above someone that is incarcerated. Just to give you a couple of, bear with me on the resolution. When we did this, when I had the resolution drafted, we were 48th out of 50 states. Today I looked and I checked just to make sure, see where we fell into the rankings again. As of yesterday was the last ranking they had. We are still currently 48th. We have a lack of vaccinations going out, so we need to put our most vulnerable people in a higher priority level than those that are incarcerated. Our law-abiding citizens should be prioritized over an incarcerated individual. Just to give you an example, if you are a 24-year-old or you have a daughter, son, 24-year-old that has diabetes, maybe they're raped, maybe something else is horrific happens to them, that person that did that to them is convicted and is currently incarcerated will receive the vaccination before their victim. That is not right. That is why we're introducing this resolution, and that is why we need to send a strong message to the administration to please take a second look at this phase and reprioritize it. With that, Madam Chair, I stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Cherokee? Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Madam Chair, good afternoon, bodies. Just want to provide some comments about the resolution before us today. And for some of our newer members, you know, when you get a resolution before you, you'll see a bunch of whereases and therefores. Basically, suppositions and propositions that basically the resolution gets us to a desired point, supposedly a recognition and agreement.
Senator, are you addressing the chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for reminding me, Madam Chair. So, Madam Chair, and I will keep my eyes fixated on you on this, Madam Chair. When you start reading the whereas clauses, Madam Chair, of the bill before us, the first whereas on line 5, whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has caused a great deal of personal, social, and economic suffering from Kansans. We obviously all agree with that, Madam Chair, because we know that, quite honestly, all the phone calls we get from people who aren't being paid for their unemployment, we know the rampant IU fraud. That's obviously a problem. But we started to run some problems with the suppositions, Madam Chair, and we come to line 7. Whereas we acknowledge the triumph of American ingenuity in developing a vaccine to combat the spread of COVID-19 and the previous presidential administration's ability to accelerate and distribute vaccine for COVID-19. Now, We all remember Operation Warp Speed, and my recollection of Operation Warp Speed, Madam Chair, was the fact that it was specifically basically put together to get industry to develop vaccines. And I think, quite honestly, that is something we should thank the Trump administration for. They took the initiative to develop those vaccines. But here's the problem where we run into the basically resolution, Madam Chair. You see the phrase there, and distribute a vaccine. I would basically propose, Madam Chair, that is a patently false statement. You go back to the administration's positions back this past summer. I don't know if it was the president or maybe Mr. Kirshner himself. He talked about basically, hey, distribution isn't our plan, that's the state's problem. And you can basically see even prior before the Biden administration, you basically saw this massive rearranging of whatever the Trump distribution plan was. Okay, go back to news reports back on January 12th, even before the Biden administration took office. Okay, because they weren't getting vaccines out there. And in fact, you can look at a Reuters News article on January 24th talking about basically, now once again, this could be for full disclosure, Madam Chair, and I do full disclosure because I don't want my colleagues to cross out and think I'm being partisan. But, you know, it did come from a Biden administration official, so maybe he was trying to color it better for his side, I don't know. But his comment was basically is the Trump administration did not have a distribution plan outside of nursing homes and hospitals that were in rural areas. That was the Trump plan. And so I would take objections to the statement of the whereas starting with line 7, because there was no really distribution plan that the Trump administration did. And then we proceed down, Madam Chair, to line 11, the whereas the governor of Kansas has had several months to develop a comprehensive plan for distributing and administering the COVID-19 vaccine. Once again, Madam Chair, I think that's a false supposition. There were no several months. You've got the Trump administration in the middle of January chasing its tail, realizing they're not getting the vaccines out there fast enough, so what are they going to do? How is our governor supposed to have a distribution strategy where you don't know what hubs you're going to get it from in other states outside of your region to bring it into your state? No, there were no several months, Madam Chair. That's another false supposition in this resolution we have before us today. Now you can kind of keep on looking through the other things as far as you have the statistics. You know, we have the statistics starting in the whereas on line 14, we have the CDC statistics. Yeah, that doesn't look good. It looks pretty grim. But once again, Madam Chair, if you have distribution issues where the national government, your federal government, your partner supposedly in a time of war has not told you how they're going to get these vaccines in, how is that supposed to happen? Why is that Kansas' fault? Was that because the Kelly administration, you know, just totally dropped the ball? Maybe. But I would allege that it was the federal government that dropped the ball. Because once again, there was no Trump plan. There was no Trump plan. And so once again, I take exception to the supposition on the whereas in line 14. And then we see the same other data that's presented in the whereas on line 17 through that paragraph. My point being is that it tends to put the body, this whole resolution is written to make it the governor's fault. That's why we're here today. We want to bash the governor. We're all into this together. And I'm not here to make any proclamations of who's right or who's wrong, but the point is that we never had a federal response to address this. There was no plan. So I think it's attacking the governor unfairly when we talk about these things. Another thing I want to move on to here is that basically, back to my general comment, Madam Chair, about suppositions and propositions. You know, when you do one of these things, those suppositions are a foundation of which you build the house of your propositions. And the suppositions in this case, they're false. They don't hold water. This dog doesn't hunt. So when you come down to the therefores and the thereases and all the geez, what the governor should have done and everything else, that house of the therefores cannot stand. It's like if you build a ranch house on a sandy beach. That house washes away eventually over time. It doesn't hold up to scrutiny or time. And that's exactly what's going on here, Madam Chair. We have a resolution that pretty much, it logically makes no sense. And so, Madam Chair, and obviously you're in the chair today, so I'll share my frustrations with you, and since you're not the Senate leadership that scheduled these things. But I really want to basically ask the question, you know, what are we doing here today talking about this? My background, Madam Leader, is that I'm a project manager. I haven't done it in a few years, but I have a lot of project management skills. I'm a facilitator. And I work with stakeholders. You know, we are a stakeholder of government, Madam Chair. We got the governor, we got Republican legislators, we got Democrats. We've got constituents who got lots of problems right now. Okay? We got lots of problems right now. And quite honestly, I could be in my office addressing some of my emails about my constituents' issues. That'd be a much more productive of my time sitting here instead of the majority party basically trying to trash the governor. So I hope our Kansas constituents, Madam Chair, realize what we're doing today on their tax dollar is we're trying to play political theater. So, you know, when I was a project manager and a facilitator, I had basically a rule with my stakeholders. If you don't have a solution, you don't have a problem. Okay, now we're a legislating authority. We can legislate actions. We're not doing that here today. So my concern here, Madam Chair, basically just to kind of move along because I don't want to waste, I guess, feel I'm taking too much of the time, but I do want to get this out in the open here. I really think what I want to talk about is basically, to me, this resolution that was brought to the floor, I mean, it's a political stunt. And the reason why I say it, to me, it is a hit job on the governor. I do want to go back to the comments made by Senate Republican leadership, the senator from Sedgwick. They talked about, you know, one of the reasons why we had the go-pay rule, or pay-go rule, excuse me, Madam Chair, is that we want to avoid those gotcha moments. Okay? I get that. We do want to avoid those gotcha moments. We're supposed to be here working in a bipartisan manner on critical issues of the state. And yet here, the Senate majority leadership is setting this up for a gotcha moment. I want to be very clear with people in the body today. I'm about to offer an amendment, and I want people to fully understand why I'm offering this amendment, Madam Chair. First of all, I want the body to please understand, okay, I'm not here to carry the governor's water. Okay? I'm independent. Okay? I do my thing. Okay? I have disagreements with the governor on policy issues. Okay? She's a big girl. She can handle this on her own. But the point I want to make is that, you know, if you want to have this fight with her, take it up with her in the media and the press. Okay? Don't start trying to damage my credibility relationship with my constituents. You know, if you all just wanted to smear the governor, you could have brought this today to the floor. You could have had a point of personal privilege. You know, the good senator from Cherokee could have just made his comments. You basically could have just done a voice vote. Okay. We all could have held our nose. We could have gone away. Because this is a non-binding resolution. It doesn't do anything. Leadership could have done that, Madam Chair, but they didn't. So what they're really telling me is this is a twofer situation. We can trash the governor, and we can put Democrats on the defensive because they're going to defend their governor. I want you, Madam Chair, and all the Republicans in this chamber and the media and citizens of Kansas want to understand, okay? I am tired of the lies and the disinformation that come from groups out of D.C. that color the perspective of how my constituents view me and what I'm up to. And that has been a mess. You know, I've gotten calls from people, okay, this has informed the citizenry. This tells you where people are at as far as information or misinformation. I had people actually calling me, Madam Chair, telling me, basically, you know, when the impeachment vote comes up, you just ought to let the bygones be bygones. How many of y'all, Madam Chair, have you gotten those calls? I just wonder if any other people, because I got my constituents saying I'm a U.S. state senator, and I've got something to say in this stuff. That's what I deal with. And now we have, politicians talking about, Jewish space lasers. We've got people saying the election was the big lie, the big fraud. A lot of people are worked up out there about that. That's what I deal with. And you know what? If those are national politicians doing that, I can handle that. But what I will not handle anymore in this chamber is basically Senate Majority Leadership playing games and trying to make me look like I'm not being upfront or honest to my constituents on issues of a very complex and life-threatening nature. And so I just wanted to share that with you, Madam Chair. This is why I'm offering this amendment today. So basically, I'm sorry, I just got all excited early this morning. I was preparing this, so I just want to scribble a few more notes, and I will sit down. I do promise the body, Madam Chair. But basically, what I want to do is basically offer an amendment. I do think the amendment is germane. And with that, Madam Chair, I would offer my amendment. This is amendment number 1025.
Would the senator from Douglas like to explain his amendment?
Madam Chair, I want to be sure I'm communicating very effectively and clearly, so I would ask that the reader please read the amendment in its entirety. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Welcome.
Mr. President, I move to amend SR 1707 on page 1 by striking all in lines 5 through 36, on page 2 by striking all in lines 1 through 11, in line 12 by striking all before the period and inserting. Whereas on January 6, 2021, a mob of armed insurrectionists stormed the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C. in a violent attempt to overturn the will of American voters and the election of Joe Biden as the 46th President of the United States of America and Kamala Harris as the 49th Vice President of the United States. And whereas an attack on the United States Capitol has not occurred since 1814 when British troops fired upon and burned federal buildings in Washington, D.C., including the White House.
Madam Chair, point of order. I'd like to challenge the germaneness of this amendment.
Germaneness is being challenged.
Madam Chair,
Convene.
point of order. I would ask that the reader read the amendment in its entirety, please, so that the body can fully ascertain whether the amendment is in fact germane or not.
Point of order, Madam Chair. The ascertainness of germaneness is up to our Rules Committee at this point.
To the carrier of the amendment, we will have the Rules Committee convene. If it is deemed germane, then we will continue with the reading of the amendment.
Madam Chair, if I may, just a point of order. Say if the Rules Committee were to make a ruling on the offered amendment, and they rule it is not germane, I fear that basically my case for challenging the germaneness of the bill would be compromised. And so I would ask for the rules that the amendment be read in its entirety.
Point of order, Madam Chair. Everybody has the opportunity to go up and read and pick up a copy of this amendment. In no way does this minimize or jeopardize his challenge.
The copy of the amendment has been distributed. The copy of the amendment is online. The Rules Committee will now address the call for germaneness.
Point of order.
Senator from Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a member of the Rules Committee, I would like the amendment read before I have to vote on the germaneness.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
The Senator from Cherokee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that the Vice President of this is the chair of that committee, and she is more than willing or more than happy to have my copy if she would like to read it when she gathers to make her determination.
Thank you. The chair has already made the ruling that a call for germaneness has been made. The call is based on what has been read and what has been distributed and what is available online. The committee will now, the Rules Committee will now meet to make a ruling on that request. The chair calls on the senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Rules Committee has ruled that this amendment is non-germane. It does deal with a different topic or subject. The amendment unreasonably and duly expands the subject of the bill, and the amendment introduced as an independent question, so it is non-germane.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Excuse me.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes, the senator from Leavenworth, Senator
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Pittman.
I am not familiar with the fact the Rules Chair mentioned that it was a bill. In fact, this is a resolution. Everything, in my knowledge, is amendable in a resolution. There is no germaneness as it's not a bill. So I don't understand how that could even be the ruling when there's a resolution at hand. Perhaps the Rules Chair could explain that.
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I misspoke by calling it a bill right off the bat, but the amendment does deal with a different topic or subject.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Madam Chair, who has the floor at this point? May I inquire? Point of order.
We had an amendment that you brought to the floor. There was a challenge of germaneness. The Rules Committee ruled that it was not germane. We are now back on the bill because the amendment was deemed not germane. So I am going back
Madam
to
Chair,
the
I'd like to
carrier.
object. I'd like to challenge the ruling of the Rules Committee, please.
We have a challenge of the Rules Committee. Motion is in order at this time by a voice vote. A vote of aye or yes is to sustain the ruling of the Rules Committee. A vote of no or nay is to overturn the ruling of the Rules Committee. All those in favor say
Madam Chair,
aye.
point of order.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
I believe this is a debatable motion.
It is. As a point of clarification, you may, and the body may comment on whether or not the decision of the Rules Committee was correct. We are not debating prior to a vote the content of the amendment that was brought before us.
I don't understand, Madam Chair. Could you please clarify that comment? Because I do want to challenge the germanos based upon their interpretation of the subject matter of the amendment versus the underlying resolution.
I understand, but again, we are not debating the amendment. We are debating whether or not to abide by the Rules Committee or to overturn the Rules Committee. At this time, I will call on the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Faust-Godot.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you could please clarify again on when we vote, what the yes means and the no means for this. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm happy to do that. A yes vote again means that you are going to uphold the decision of the Rules Committee. So an aye or a yes vote is upholding the decision of the Rules Committee that it was non-germane. A no or a nay vote is to a vote to overturn the Rules Committee.
Madam Chair, can I make my argument?
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland, and again, we're talking about the decision whether or not to uphold or overturn, not the amendment.
Understood, Madam Chair. And I would offer, Madam Chair, basically the argument that the Rules Committee made an incorrect calculation. They arrived at an incorrect conclusion on a number of things I want to go back to. Basically, I want to point out the senator from Leavenworth's comment is that I do believe that basically when you bring a resolution to the floor, it should be amendable. They're really, subject matter in a resolution is interpreted to the will of the body. The second point I want to make is that the underlying bill really does not attempt to seriously address the COVID-19 struggles that our citizens are facing. It merely basically...
Senator from Douglas.
Finishing my argument that I'll be very brief,
Senator from Douglas.
Yes, ma'am.
You are now going to the resolution. We are focusing on the ruling by the Rules Committee as to whether the amendment was in fact germane to the underlying resolution. We are not debating the resolution at this time.
And Madam Chair, in toto, my argument is not based just on the resolution by itself or the amendment. It's in subject to the both. I would just argue, and I will sit down, Madam Chair, that the underlying resolution basically politically trashes our governor, and the amendment
Senator from Douglas.
To call out the actions.
Senator from Douglas.
Yes, ma'am.
The discussion at this time, the comments at this time are to be directed to the decision of the Rules Committee, not the contents of the resolution. You are now talking about the contents of the resolution. You are not talking about the decision of the Rules Committee.
Very good, Madam Chair. I will basically stand down at this point. I disagree with your interpretation of what is valid discussion on this challenge, but I will stand down. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there any other discussion at this time from the floor? Seeing none, we will now, with a voice vote, again, a yes or an aye is to uphold the decision by the Rules Committee. A vote of no or nay is to overturn the decision of the Rules Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. No. The ayes have it. Seeing 5 hands, we are now on roll call.
Alley. Baumgardner. Billinger. Bowers. Clays. Corson. Dietrich. Dahl. Erickson. Estes. Begg. Ralph-Goodell. Francisco. Gossage. Haley. Hawk. Hildebrand. Holland. Holscher. Kirshen. Close. Longbine. Masterson. McGinn. Olson. O'Shea. Peck. Peterson. Petty. Pittman. Pyle. Steffen. Straub. Sullentrop. Sykes. Thompson. Tyson. Ware. Warren. Wilborn.
Has everyone had an opportunity to vote? Senator from Cloud, Senator Bowers.
I vote aye.
Has everyone had a chance to vote? Is anyone wanting to change their vote? Seeing none, we will now close the vote and tally the vote. The vote is yeas 25, nays 11. The ruling of the Rules Committee is upheld. We are now back on the resolution. The senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There was a lot of things to respond on that, but I will hold off until my closing to respond to those. Thank you.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Madam Chair, thank you. I thank the body for their patience with me this afternoon. I just want to request, Madam Chair, that my offered amendment be entered into the record.
Senator from Lyons, Senator Longbine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't often enter into these debates, but I somehow feel compelled. Been accusations made today that this is political grandstanding. For me, it's not political at all. It's personal. It's real personal, in fact. I had the opportunity today to have lunch with my 21-year-old type 1 diabetic, insulin-dependent daughter, who is in her senior year of college and really doesn't get to go anywhere other than her apartment because as a carrier of an autoimmune disease, she's very susceptible to the virus, and it would cause tremendous problems if she contracted the virus. So when I look at my daughter and I try to figure out why I can't get her a vaccine, And I look at the KDHE website every day, and it specifically says that type 1 diabetics are in phase 4. They're not even in phase 3, ahead of type 2 diabetics, which are in phase 3. They're in phase 4. And so I'm supposed to explain to my daughter that she can't live a normal life, that she has to stay home and manage her blood sugar to the best of her ability because we're going to give vaccines to prisoners first. I got a problem with that. So it's not political for me, it's personal. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'll now call on the senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with the senator and his comments. We do have a problem with access to vaccines, and I wish we had enough for everyone right now. And I understand this struggle. I have a sister, the senator from Sedgwick was talking about heart health. I had a 30-year-old sister-in-law who almost died from heart trouble, and she can't get a vaccine. So yes, the problem is real. But I also know that we all signed our oath of office to uphold the Kansas Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. And the 8th Amendment and the 9th Amendment prohibit cruel and unusual punishment. This prohibition does more than prohibit torture and physical abuse. The courts have been very clear that the 8th Amendment is violated when prisoners are incarcerated under conditions posing substantial risk of serious harm. And officials display a deliberate indifference to prisoner health and safety. Deliberate indifference is the failure of officials to act when they have timely knowledge as a significant risk of serious harm to prisoners. A key factor in deliberate indifference is knowledge on the part of officials that harm will result, and they disregard that risk. I don't know if the senator knows what happened in Oregon just yesterday, but a federal judge ruled that the state of Oregon must offer COVID vaccinations to all prisoners immediately. This order put Oregon prisoners in the front of the line. The court found deliberate indifference by the state in violation of Oregon prisoners' constitutional rights to be protected from cruel and unusual punishment. The state of Oregon has said that it will not appeal. The Oregon Justice Resource Center had filed a class action case on behalf of Oregon prisoners. It is not hard to see that the ACLU or another prisoner rights group filing similar COVID case in Kansas. Failure to prioritize Kansas prisoners in the vaccine distribution system will most likely result in litigation against the state of Kansas, and the state will lose. The COVID data shows a substantial risk of harm to prisoners. Prisoner officials are aware of, and they assist in the collection of this data, and therefore have knowledge of the risk and the serious harm. Not taking steps to protect prisoners would show a deliberate indifference that could result in a very similar outcome as the Oregon case. There is a problem. We all agree on that. But it is their constitutional right, and we all took an oath of office to uphold the Constitution. Sometimes it doesn't work out exactly like we wanted, but in this case, by condemning these prisoners, we are saying that they need cruel and unusual punishment. I will also, Madam Chair, I had an amendment and I will not be offering it, but I would like to point out, and I think they can fix this on the record, but Senator Hildebrand's name is misspelled on the resolution. So I would like to have that fixed, but I will not offer an amendment. Thank you.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. if they got it close, that's better than what most people do, and I'm satisfied. Thank you.
This time I'll call on the senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Everything we do in life is about prioritizing and making decisions about being most efficient. We heard today in Judiciary Committee that there's a backlog of over 6,000 cases in the state of, these are serious cases, level 1, 2, and 3 severity that our district attorneys are dealing with. We are having all sorts of unintended consequences from this virus because of the response to the virus. This is a situation where we have elderly people who have been isolated for almost a year now. They want to see their grandkids. They want to get back to normal. They want the vaccinations. We have children who need vaccinations. They are isolated. They are not getting the proper education because it's remote. The suicide rate among our young is climbing rapidly. We have businesses that have still not recovered from this. This is all about prioritizing to get our economy open and to make it more efficient by allowing and urging the prioritization to be re-examined. I think this is all about making the proper priorities so that we can accelerate our path toward recovery from this pandemic, and I rise in support of this resolution. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Would the carrier of the resolution like to respond?
I concur with the good senator from Johnson County. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I now call on the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I agree. I too am tired of the lies and deceit coming from Washington, D.C. Madam Chair, I lost my mother on December 21st. She spent the last 9 months of her life quarantined. And I think that is far more cruel and unusual punishment to a woman who never committed a crime. To be confined in that way, that is cruel and unusual punishment, Madam Chair. We are not allowing law-abiding citizens, students and children to go to school, to go to work, and to go to their jobs. And we're going to prioritize prisoners who are allowed to go on work study. That is cruel and unusual punishment, Madam Chair. So I rise in support of this resolution, and I urge my fellow senators to do as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand, did you want to respond?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
This time I'll call on the senator from Reno, Senator Stephan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a practicing physician, I find this resolution a breath of fresh air. I've been involved in this at the ground level from day one. I've watched hospitals be closed down inappropriately. I've watched schools be prematurely closed down and never should be. It's literally been misstep after misstep, culminating in a taxpayer-funded fear campaign via the Kelly administration. To have a Senate resolution that helps document the reality of what we've been through, in my mind, is priceless. And one of the key points is this prioritization. A young, incarcerated male or female, healthy otherwise, this virus is no more than a flu bug. This is like a flu shot to them. Yet for the elderly, it very much is a life-saving intervention. It's a risk to benefit type of scenario. And we've just seen misstep after misstep, and I'm thrilled to rise in support of a resolution that rectifies one of the many errors and documents correctly the failed response to the virus we've seen and starts to take into account the collateral damage that's been incurred. Thank you.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand, would you like to respond?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
This time I call on the senator from Johnson, Senator Gossage.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I serve on the Public Health and Welfare Committee, and twice we asked for the KDHE to come in and answer some of our questions. And then they finally were able to schedule a meeting, a joint meeting with some of the House members on their committee with ours. We asked directly to to Director Norman about the elderly. I also have an elderly mother who's in an independent living facility. She's 90 years old. She has yet to leave her apartment. And independent living facilities, for those who don't know, is definitely a community facility in that they definitely have a community place where they all go to have their meals. They have community library, etc. And we were told that the reason that prisoners were put in front of people like my mother was because they were in a community setting. And we were trying to say, but so are they, and which of these should be prioritized? Twice we asked this question, plus I asked this question a third time of the director over all the independent living facilities in the state of Kansas. So it's not for lack of trying, Madam Chair, that we reached out and asked if they could please prioritize these elderly that are also in phase 2 and have not received an answer. And that is why, if I may say that I'm supportive of this resolution. We have to do something to make a difference. Thank you.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand, did you want to respond?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
This time I call on the senator from Johnson, Senator Holscher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've worked on a few different criminal justice bills, victims' rights bills, wrongful incarceration, and there's just a couple of things I'd like to share with the body about some things about just the prison environment that have an impact here that I don't think we've heard today. As mentioned, it's very appropriate to have healthcare workers prioritized, elderly adults in facilities, those types of things. And congregate living facilities are at the highest risk. And when we're talking about incarcerated individuals, they have very little control over their ability to follow the public health guidance to protect themselves. Whereas we have more control in those things, to social distance, wear a mask, those types of things. Correctional facilities have poorly ventilated spaces, which is also a big concern as far as trying to mitigate the virus. And the whole aspect of healthy population versus unhealthy. When we're talking about a prison population, in general, they tend to have poor health and underlying conditions. It's quite likely a high number of them would already fit in the categories because of those vulnerabilities. Prisons and jails have been the epicenters of some of the highest outbreaks, and just by their very nature, they cannot social distance. At this point, we have already had 5,320 COVID infections in the state's prison system, which of course then we pay for the treatment. It might be another one of those cases where it makes more sense to vaccinate and prevent the spread of the disease versus trying to treat it later. And when we talk about vulnerable populations, again, we're looking at a population where there's a congregate setting and there's underlying health conditions. And finally, we need to consider, and this is something you and I know about, wrongful incarceration. Not everybody who's in the prison system is absolutely guilty. Additionally, sometimes we have people there on possession of some type of drug, such as marijuana, which may not be considered a huge violation somewhere else. So to hold us all, or to hold that whole population to the same standard, well, we know there are some issues there and there's little control in their situation, is something that we need to ponder. I thank you, Madam.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just hold till my closing. Thank you.
This time I call on the Senator from Finney, Senator Dahl.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions for the carrier of the resolution.
Go ahead.
First question, do you believe that this vaccine works and is effective?
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure the relevance of that question to this resolution.
Senator from Finney, Senator Dahl.
Do you believe that this resolution will make it, do you believe this resolution will help the recovery and allow schools and businesses to open quicker?
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the question for the Senator from Finney. Madam Chair, this resolution is intended to send a strong message to this administration that to encourage them to take another look at prioritizing in their phases, to put our most vulnerable Kansans, law-abiding Kansans, not as secondary class citizens, and not to give privileges to prisoners who are incarcerated in Kansas above a law-abiding citizen. You get that into law-abiding citizens, I think they have the opportunity to take it. With the minimum supply, we have to get the supply up. Hopefully we do. We just have to wait and see. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator from Finney, Senator Dahl.
So this resolution, because it's not dealing whether we believe the vaccine will work, yet we're going to have a resolution in order to prioritize who gets a vaccine, and we don't know, we can't agree whether the vaccine works or not. So what this resolution is for, is, if I understand correctly, is just to kind of tell the governor how to do her job. Is that correct?
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is the legislative body's oversight of KDHE on situations like this. We could pass a bill. Unfortunately, everybody in this chamber understands the process. We have to have reviser draft the bill, has to go through proofing, then it comes out, we have to introduce the bill, then we have to have a hearing on the bill, then we have to work the bill in committee, then it comes to the floor and we get to do what we're doing right now, then it goes to the House, same exact processes minus the drafting of the bill, then if it's not amended, it goes to the governor. Do we think the governor will sign this bill or do we think she'll veto it? I'm gonna guess she would veto it. So then we're back here. Then we have to do a veto override, which I'm confident we could do. But during that time, hopefully, being optimistic, we would be past phase 2. So doing that is unrealistic. We have the authority to do that. So since that is unrealistic, our next best option is to introduce and pass a Senate resolution, send a strong message to the administration that we want her and Secretary Norman to take a look and reprioritize her phases. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator from Finney, Senator Dahl.
I appreciate that. I like to spin room back there. It makes me go back in my days when I was a coach. And what I would do is, when we'd practice, every once in a while, I would just go step outside of the gym and close the door just so I could hear what was going on, and not see. Because you can learn a lot by just listening. And then going back here and listening to what's going on, I can't decide whether this is resolution. To me, I taught a little bit of elementary PE, and it's like a 4th grade recess fight. And I'm not pinning it on anyone. We're just sitting here taking valuable time when we're passing good legislation, helping the people. And we all know masks work.
what all the studies show. But so I don't know how serious we're taking this COVID, but we're taking it serious enough that we want to throw rocks. I don't understand. Thank you.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand, did you want to respond?
Madam Chair, I'll just hold for my closing. Thank you.
At this time, I'll call on the Senator from Leavenworth, Senator Pittman.
Appreciate that, Madam Chair. I want to tell this body, Madam Chair, I'm reluctantly going to vote for this resolution. I think that getting involved with some prioritization is not a bad idea. I regret that the chair of the Health Committee didn't go further. I think the process he described has been done in a day or two in the past. And to take on that role, this doesn't go far enough. We call out one situation, which I resent. I resent that we don't go in and talk about why don't we give the congregations and the religious leaders the vaccine in front of these other individuals? Why don't we give teachers, specific teachers, upper education, why don't we make all those decisions and actually take on that role, that heavy role that the governor and Secretary Norman have had to do, and feel what it's like to prioritize some people's lives over others. That's a very, very difficult decision. It's a sad decision that we have to make, and we are in hard times. We understand that. We have a constrained supply due to many factors, including the last presidential administration, and we're trying to get through that. We're trying to take what we can and distribute it out. We all get calls about when is that vaccine going to be available. We know we have at risk. I have individuals I know who have passed away from this so-called flu. I talked to the warden today in Lansing Correctional Facility. The reasons I don't like this resolution is that we could have gotten to the point very quickly, very at the end, right to the point, Madam Chair, right to the point. But instead, we spend all these whereases talking about things that aren't even relevant to the prioritization. I talked to her, and it appears that not all the correction staff have been vaccinated yet. And you know why I waffle on this particular resolution is that this is about our state workers, our correction staff, and it's about their safety. It's about preventing community spread. It's about protecting our workers, and they haven't all gotten the vaccine yet. I want them to get the vaccine. That's a high priority for me. Unfortunately, the health of these workers and this prison population, they're very intertwined. Now, I know that the the COVID virus has gone through these prison populations, and it's spread like wildfire in there. I feel like there's probably quite a bit of immunity buildup. I'm okay right now, sadly enough to some of my colleagues, I imagine, but I'm okay with us prioritizing these at-risk individuals out in our community when we're in such a tight, constrained supply for this vaccine that can be, as some have said, a life-changing thing. But I do wish that we had taken the time to look through these prioritizations that have been given to us from the CDC and said, as a body, what are we willing to do here? Who are we willing to prioritize? And actually gone through that deliberation. Because this is a one-shot, one-piece resolution with a lot of stuff loaded into it. So, Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and sit, but thank you for hearing me out.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand, did you want to respond?
Madam Chair, thank you, but I will still hold for my closing.
This time I'll call on the Senator from Shawnee, Senator O'Shea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd be curious to know how many people in the room gave up their phase 2 status access to this vaccine in order for another Kansan to be in line in front of them. That is all. Thank you.
Senator from Wyandotte, Senator Haley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't know if the senator, the carrier of the amendment, wanted to reply to the senator from Shawnee's comment. You had been recognizing him after each. I would yield if that's the case.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand, did you want to respond with regard to your resolution?
Madam Chair, I'll still hold for my closing. Thank you.
We're back to the senator from Wyandotte, Senator Haley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if I might share with you, Madam Chair, and it's kind of interesting that she would just bring it up, I just got my shot at 1 o'clock today. I got my vaccine today that was offered to have us have it. As you know, this was the last day that we were offered for the legislature and staff to have it the last 3 days. And so I went through it with great deliberation, and the relevance of what I'm saying to the resolution before us now is because I do want to see prioritized that those who will take advantage of having the vaccine would do so. And so I inquired while I was out there, how did it go? How was the turnout? Are many people who have lined up with this so-called priority come out and participated? And they said, actually, no, not as many as they would have thought. I won't ask for a show of hands in the chamber, Madam Chair, because it is not directly relevant to inoculations or vaccines afforded to those who are incarcerated. But I imagine there may not be many hands that go up in this room, despite the fact that there are some of us who are highly susceptible and have indeed fallen prey to contracting the virus. So there's some who are not going to take advantage of having the vaccine regardless of the opportunity to have so. I did because, well, I travel frequently, and the testing before and after, it just was so inconvenient. But I want to see people have or continue to have access to it. I think one senator said or talked about the speedy trial backlog that we heard in judiciary, and you know, Madam Chair, you're a part of the Judiciary Committee as well. And what is happening in our jails are that people are being held, and they're held for lengthier periods of time because there's a ripple effect, and they're not able to make bail. And so, unlike those of us who have options, who could be given a card today and say, go get the vaccine, and not just those who are in this room who did not and could have and have not for whatever reason, but those in the general public who actually have the options of remaining safe, where they might be in a long-term care facility, or where they might be in their private homes, or their mobility about community. That's an option. What this proposal has been about, Madam Chair, are for people who don't have the option to get the vaccine, for people who don't have the option to prevent community spread or to protect themselves with the proper prophylactic measure to not contract the virus, and to have that vaccine in place. During the special session, Madam Chair, you might recall, maybe you don't, I introduced what was Senate Bill 6 because mine wasn't to vaccinate those who are incarcerated. My plan was for all the nonviolent offenders who are currently detained, that if they had a home detention plan and that they tested negative, of course, and they had 6 months or less remaining on their sentence, that we would just cut them loose, reduce our bed space impact, not be personally liable as a state if a class action ensued because this person who tested negative and didn't have the COVID contracted through no fault of their own. That was my solution. And frankly, as much as I implored our governor and her staff, Secretary Zamuda, it fell on deaf ears. And that would have been, I think, the start of an appropriate response. Now here we are today. And let me say something hadn't been brought up, Madam Chair, and you know this. You're on corrections, or used to be. The population of Kansas is about a little over 3 some odd million. Every man, woman, and child. We're talking about 3 million people. The population of those offenders, every man, every woman, for whatever the sentence is about a little over 10,000. So we're talking about 10,000 or so if every one of them did who were incarcerated. And this is not compulsory. If they want to expose themselves in a closed environment, they don't want to take a shot, they're shot phobics like some of you are here, or whatever reason, vaccine phobics, they would not have to take it. But if they want to protect themselves, if every one of them did 10,000, what percentage of all of Kansas's population would that be? I'm not good at math, but it's very little. So what we're trying to do by saying that by prioritizing over those who are incarcerated, who are trapped, who don't have options, to have that option, what that percentage is a pebble in the mountain of the numbers of Kansans who would be eligible. We are really talking about a very, very small percentage. There would be one trench that would be delivered, and this would be all resolved. And I think we would not only protect ourselves from potential class action, which could be detrimental to the economy of our state, beyond the moral implications of holding somebody and not allowing them proper health care or a prophylaxis for their health care, or subjecting someone who had a few months left or half a year left on their sentence, and instead they end up with a death sentence from contracting the COVID. Somebody gave the stats of how many have died while incarcerated. I don't even know what the number is, but I will shudder if any of those who contracted COVID in prison in Kansas, who had very little time left, instead ends up deceased. So I'm conflicted on this resolution. I would prefer that we just let the people who are negative right now, let them finish their sentences at home, in home detention. And this doesn't mean that everyone who is incarcerated will get the vaccine, but if every one of them did, if all 10,000 currently incarcerated, it's not gonna make much of a difference, what, a week, 3 days, 4 days, when everything's rolled out? From all those Kansans, those additional 10,000 Kansans who, if they wanted to, could go and get the vaccine in the first place. So I thank you for allowing me to opine or weigh in on what this debate has meant. And I share with the public, as I did, that I went on ahead and got my vaccine. I had to think about it. I'm on the last day getting it. I went on and got it because I didn't want to step ahead of anyone else who might want it or who could get it. And then I find out that so many people who could have gotten it in the last 3 days to protect themselves, who had that option to protect themselves, some of whom may be in this room, Madam Chair, just said they weren't going to do it anyway. Thank you.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now we know who wrote the Senate resolution. I will hold till my close. Thank you.
Senator from Johnson. Go ahead, Senator Gossage.
Very short. Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, 1, I did get the vaccine yesterday. 2, I asked if my mother could take my place. And I'm sure that the senator from Lyon would have done the same for his daughter. But unfortunately, that is not allowed. It's offered to you and you alone. And if people who wanted it could get it, that would be great. All we're saying in this resolution is that those who are incarcerated should not be put ahead. Of course, they should be offered the vaccine, but not put ahead of those others who are very vulnerable. Thank you.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Ware.
Thank you so much, Madam Chairman. You know, we all are so ready to finally be done with everything that COVID has brought. Nobody is liking this. One of our most effective mitigation tools is to control hotspots. Every hotspot should be mitigated. We all know that elderly care homes are at huge risk of becoming hotspots, along with all other group living locations, frankly, as well as here in the Capitol building, potential hotspots. Bottom line, every hotspot should be dealt with in the most effective manner. It's as simple as that. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the carrier of the resolution? Seeing none, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, colleagues in this chamber, for the spirited debate and conversation about this resolution. To be quite honest, I really didn't believe it to be as controversial as some of my colleagues and friends have decided to label it. The whole intention is to send a strong message to this governor and to our Secretary of KDHE to reprioritize their phases and to take incarcerated individuals out of being prioritized above law-abiding citizens of Kansas. We're just asking to put them at the same level as law-abiding citizens. We heard that it's cruel and unusual punishment to not give an incarcerated individual a vaccine. What about those law-abiding citizens that we're denying, that we're putting back to the back of the line? Does cruel and unusual only apply to incarcerated individuals of Kansas? No, it doesn't, and unusual would mean it's different. They're getting treated differently and being punished differently because of something. And in this case, they are being elevated because of their crime. We also heard that this was political theater. It's a political hit job against our governor. I read this a lot differently than my colleagues that believe that. I read it as, we have an issue in Kansas with COVID-19 vaccination distribution. We heard that it was a federal distribution problem. Well, we have known since December, beginning of December, or actually November, that this vaccine was being rolled out. If this is a game changer for herd immunity in the state of Kansas, one would expect that our leadership, who is making the logistical plans for this, would have started back in November when they knew that a vaccine was coming out, to logistically prepare, to know how logistically. It doesn't matter if you're getting 1 vial or 1,000,000 vials. Logistically, you would prepare. You would have a plan for each step, and then you could implement that plan as your vials came in. The federal government's distribution is getting it to the state. The state's distribution is getting it into Kansans' arms. There is our problem. We are currently 48th out of 50 states of getting that distributed and getting that vaccine into Kansans' arms. In our questions in our committee, we often heard that the stats were not right, the stats were wrong, that there were reporting issues. That could be, but there are 50 states. They have the same issues that Kansas has. How come they've figured it out constantly and we constantly have not? You know, there was talk about prisoners being wrongly incarcerated. My heart bleeds for those individuals. No one should be wrongly accused, wrongly incarcerated. But there is a solution to that. It was often, I heard people plead with our governor. Governor, commute these individuals. The governor has that ability to commute prisoners under KSA 22-3701. So if it is the intent that we are going to prioritize innocent prisoners, that mechanism is already there. That can be used today. It could have been used last March. It was not. So here we are, cruel and unusual punishment again. It has to be unusual. It cannot be on a level playing field. It's not unusual. If everybody is receiving the same thing, it's not unusual. It's typical. "23% of all people that have cancer or recovering from cancer, that's the mortality rate for COVID if they catch COVID, 23%. If you are 64 and under, you're phase 3. Your time has not come yet. 0.0017%. That's the mortality rate for incarcerated individuals in Kansas. What is cruel and unusual? It is our law-abiding citizens that are going through the cruel and unusual punishment if we stick with this phase plan that we currently have. Friends, colleagues, I hope you will join me in sending a strong message to our governor and our secretary of KDHE to please take a look at how we are distributing the vaccine and reprioritize law-abiding Kansans and incarcerated individuals so they are on an even playing field. With that, Madam Chair, I move that when the committee rises and reports, it will report Senate Resolution 1707 favorably for adoption.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. We'll now turn our attention to Senate Bill 24. The chair recognizes a senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson, to explain the bill and to adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There were some amendments in the committee, and I move to adopt the committee report.
As amended?
As amended. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
All those in favor say aye. No. Motion carried. You may proceed in explaining the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 24 is basically a bill that fairly simple in its intent, and it reads, "A municipality shall not impose any ordinance, resolution, code, rule, provision, standard, permit, plan, or any other binding action that prohibits, discriminates against, restricts, limits, impairs, or has the effect thereof an end-use customer's use of a utility service," and specifically with regard to the term utility service, that means the use of natural gas, the provision of natural gas. The reason for the need of Senate Bill 24 is that the freedom of choice is being undermined by trends we are seeing around the country, starting in California and New York, that seek to limit or prohibit the use of natural gas for end users. By doing this, it would have a detrimental impact on the 870,000 households in Kansas that use natural gas and rely on it to heat their homes, to heat their water, to dry their clothes, run whole house generators, and many other uses. Natural gas has the lowest per cost of BTU, per BTU of any energy choice. It is 4 times cheaper than electricity, and as a result, it makes it much easier for lower income and those people who are on fixed incomes to pay their utility bills, which is a problem in the state of Kansas. And if they are forced to replace their gas furnaces, hot water heaters, cooktops, the cost could be exorbitant, impossible for them to bear. The worry is that once these prohibitions on an energy source get a foothold and possibly spread in a patchwork method across the state of Kansas, there would be fewer and fewer gas customers to spread the cost of natural gas across. Eventually, that would make gas more expensive and have a detrimental impact on the use of gas. Restaurants would be particularly hard hit. They'd be basically killed by this if we allow the prohibition of natural gas to stand. And the bill ensures basically that Kansas consumers would continue to have the freedom to choose their source or type of energy in their homes and businesses. Basically, it's a common sense approach to ensuring a broad mix of energy options remain viable for everyone in the state. The bill, by the way, would not limit cities from being able to choose what energy sources they want to use for the buildings or facilities they own. So for the city-owned buildings, if they decided they didn't want to use natural gas, this bill does not stop them from making that choice. It just speaks to the end users and allows them to continue to use that choice as we go forward. And with that, I would stand for any questions, Madam Chair.
Are there questions for the Senator from Johnson? Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was pleased to be on the Utilities Committee when we worked this bill, so I think I have a pretty good understanding of it. I want to start out by just saying I'm grateful to those municipalities that have taken a lead in addressing climate change. The problem is real and needs solutions. There are good reasons to consider reducing our use of natural gas. Energy use in buildings accounts for a significant percentage of greenhouse gas emissions. As the source of generation for electricity moves away from coal, electricity is becoming cleaner. Gas leaks may include methane, which is far more potent than CO2. Gas appliances may release emissions and pollutants indoors. And pipeline explosions are a clear danger in states known for large earthquakes. However, until we have significant storage capability, much of the electricity generated by wind and solar will need to be backed up with generation from natural gas. Also, since natural gas has a 92% efficiency rate from wellhead to home, it doesn't make environmental sense to convert natural gas to electricity if the electricity is then used to create less efficient heat. As alluded, in July of 2019, the City Commission of Berkeley, California became the first US city to ban natural gas hookups. And they banned that in new multifamily construction with some allowances for first floor retail and certain types of large structures. I also don't think it makes environmental sense to have only older buildings in a community be the ones that are using natural gas. New buildings that have followed new codes for energy efficiency can help reduce the use of all fossil fuels. I want to encourage, not discourage, energy efficient new construction and renovation. My husband and I recently had natural gas on-demand water heaters installed in our home and in 2 of our rental properties. We did that to save money and reduce our use of fossil fuels. I love it. I no longer have to ask myself if I remembered to turn down the temperature for the hot water tank before we leave home over a weekend. I don't want any policy that says, I can use this, but you can't. So that introduction is just to say I recognize concerns. And I do understand that it would have been difficult to write this bill because it's a response not to things that are happening, but to fears of what might happen in Kansas. So as introduced, the bill had some serious flaws. The bill had some serious flaws. And I thank the committee for making what I believe are 2 improvements to the bill. Since the concern was with retail provision of natural gas, I think it made sense to take away the electric utilities out of consideration. And more importantly, the bill now clearly allows municipalities to make decisions about utility service for the buildings where they are the customer. Unfortunately, there were several requests for consideration made during the hearings that the committee failed to discuss. One was to consider whether propane should also be included. Another, if we should allow a municipality to have some choice when it enters a public-private partnership. So I do have a question for the senator from Johnson. I may go ahead.
You may ask your question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What was the committee considering as an amendment when a substitute motion was made to move this bill out of committee favorably?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We were considering another amendment at the time that the substitute motion was made. We had 2 days of hearing on the bill and 2 days of working the bill. We'd worked with the stakeholders over the course of several days, tried to hone this bill in and make it as efficient as possible. And at the time of the substitute motion, it made sense to consider the substitute motion, and we felt like we'd worked the bill sufficiently. And so we passed it favorably out of committee after the substitute motion was submitted and voted on favorably.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't think the senator from Johnson answered my question. The question was, what was the committee considering? And in fact, we were considering the lines 15 and 16 in the bill that referred to binding action that prohibits, discriminates against, restricts, limits, impairs. I'd like to ask the senator from Johnson if the city of Shawnee has a building code.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
They certainly do, Madam Chair.
Senator from Douglas. Senator
Thank you,
Francisco.
Madam Chair. And I believe it's the 2018 International Building Code, the same code that's adopted in Lawrence. If so, that also references the International Fuel Gas Code. So the Fuel Gas Code addresses the design and installation of fuel gas systems and gas-fired appliances through prescriptive and performance requirements. Would the senator from Johnson agree that the requirement to follow this code restricts an end-use customer's use of a public utility because they would have to do it only in a way that followed that code?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
If I understand the question, Madam Chair, I believe the answer is that the city of Shawnee would have to comply with this bill, and our end users would still have the option of using natural gas.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that's correct. I believe the municipality would have to follow this bill, and I think then they would not be allowed to make reasonable restrictions on the use of gas, appliances, furnaces, things that we are all asking them to do to protect our public safety. I think I can correct this with an amendment, and I have an amendment and I've turned it in.
What's the number, please?
S1041.
Thank you. Senator from Douglas. Senator Francisco, would you like to explain your amendment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would. It's a pretty simple amendment. This amendment would just insert the words "or unreasonably" in front of discriminates against, restricts, limits, impairs, or has the effect thereof. So the city could still not take any binding action to prohibit, but they would be able to take reasonable actions that may discriminate against, restrict, or limit. And I believe one of those very reasonable actions would be to keep in place their building codes.
Are there any questions on the amendment? Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Francisco. I will leave this decision to the will of the body. I understand why the senator is bringing this amendment. I also worry, and there was some discussion about whether or not the word unreasonably could be very broadly interpreted. And there's some concerns that that could create some issues rather than continue to keep this very, very narrow interpretation as the bill was amended out of committee. So, as I said, I will leave that to the will of the body.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. These are not the words that I chose, nor the words that I offered in committee to change this language, but these are the words that the proponents of the bill said that they would be comfortable with, and that is why I'm introducing them, because of their comfort and my understanding that it will make it much easier for our municipalities. With that, I move my motion, or move my amendment.
I had some people standing, so I would like to address that. But first, I saw the senator from Douglas, Senator Holland, standing. Were you wanting to speak, Senator Holland?
Not in the amendment, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. This time I call on the senator from Lynn, Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Would the carrier of the amendment stand for question?
She will.
Thank you. Would she define unreasonable?
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
It's not the word that I suggested, so I would assume that that would be a question for our courts. The language that I had suggested was prohibits, restricts, or has the effect of substantially restricting.
Senator from Lynn, Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand it's not the word that the carrier would have chosen, and to me it is too vague, leaves it open for too much discretion. I will not be supporting the amendment, but thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This was not an easy bill to write. It was not an easy bill to amend, but we are clearly putting public health and safety at risk if we do not allow our municipalities to adopt code that would set standards for fuel, gas, and fuel appliances. So if there are other suggestions for better wording, I hope that those are brought forward.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
I will not have a comment on that, just put it to a vote, Madam Chair.
Seeing no other questions on the amendment, you may move your amendment.
I was hoping we might have another question and I could look up unreasonably in the dictionary, but without that, I move my amendment.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion falls. We are back.
Could we ask for a roll call? Division?
We have a call for division. All those in favor, please stand. Thank you. All those opposed, please stand. On a vote of 11, thank you, you may sit. On a vote of 11 to 21, the amendment fails. We are back on the bill. Senator Thompson from Johnson.
I believe we have someone standing for questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question will be brief. If the senator from the carrier of the bill would stand for a question.
You will.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, my question to the carrier of the bill would be this. We have an outgoing administration. We have an incoming administration. I'm going to guess that there's probably going to be some changes in philosophies as far as taxation, energy, things of that nature. I'm just curious, Madam Chair, and I ask this most benignly because I just want to know, just when you had the discussion about this bill, was there any talk about maybe potential federal regulations or rules coming down that would somehow, this bill, was there any discussion as far as the relation and interaction potentially of that? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the extent that we talked about changes in production tax credits, any of those things, not extensively. However, when you start looking at energy, you have to consider that. And it's very important to note that, as I did in my opening statement, that for end users, those things don't matter as much as their utility bill. They've got to heat their homes, they've got to pay their bills, and some people struggle to do that. Natural gas is still the best option for that. If they're forced to go all electric, their bills in their homes will increase at least 50%. We've seen stats to that extent. So this is just a common sense approach to offering or making sure that that energy is in the mix. I understand that there probably will be some changes with the new administration as to federal policies, and we could probably stand and argue the benefits or detriments of those policies all day. But we tried to focus in very narrowly on the benefits of this bill and keeping Kansans end users of natural gas protect their choices, which they are making already.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I very much appreciate the response. Just a comment and observation. Number one, my comment, I will be supporting the underlying bill. I view natural gas as such a vital energy source for our Kansans, both in residential and commercial industrial applications, that we obviously don't want to jeopardize its ability to obviously be utilized. And just a final comment too, Madam Chair, I do not envy our chairs of our committees right now, because as we have basically new directions in some of these areas and new potentially policies coming down, it's going to be interesting waters that make for these chairs as they weave their way legislatively through the upcoming year. So thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Senator from Riley, Senator Hawk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple comments and an amendment. Could I make my comments first and then get to my amendment, or would you like me to introduce my amendment? They sort of interrelate, but not totally.
Go ahead with your comments, and then we'll move to the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is one of those bills, and I think I told the people from the gas industry that half of my friends are for this bill, and half of my friends are against this bill, I guess I'll have to go with my friends on this one. And I do have mixed feelings about this because I do want choice. And one of my goals as a senator has been to kind of keep my hypocrite quotient down, which is difficult in here because we have bills that have good parts and some other parts some of us don't like. And so I have wanted to be energy efficient, and I built a house with a ground source heat pump and then had a chance to put a few solar panels on. But I also suffered through the ice storm in 2006, and I wanted to have a gas fireplace because I knew you couldn't always count on the sun or even the electricity, and sometimes. Fortunately, we haven't had those ice storms, at least to that degree since. And I do recognize, and the carrier of the bill talked about the number of homes that are heated with natural gas. I think we need natural gas, even if we are going to go further than many of us imagine in terms of renewable energy. I think natural gas is a bridge to that future, an important one. And so I support the consumer choice on it. Where I'm torn is that this bill takes away the home rule or the local government choice that we always value with local control. Right now, I think the bill is actually premature. I think the senator from Douglas mentioned that Berkeley had done a proposal, so there probably is a reason. I have noticed politically Kansas seems to be a bit of a far cry from Berkeley, California, and so I'm not especially worried that our cities will jump out. There might be one that might have made some mention of having a goal, but I don't see cities likely prohibiting their consumers having that choice. And I think some points were made by the other senator from Douglas that we don't know really what the energy landscape is going to be. I remember in the House we had quite a debate back when I was in the House about wind energy and whether or not we were really going to have turbines and whether it took tax credits for it to work. We eventually came up with an RPS, a renewable portfolio standard of 20%. We went way past that much quicker, and I think we're up over 40% in the electricity we're creating with wind. So that has changed. And because of that change, I think it may behoove us right now. I think most of us would feel comfortable voting for this bill and making sure that our consumers had their choice. I think all of us will have a little bit of a concern about who decides that and how much authority do we give our local governments. I actually trust our local governments, sometimes slightly more than I trust us on certain issues. And so to ensure that we don't lock ourselves in, I would like to offer an amendment, and it is Amendment 1033. It is the longest amendment I've ever carried. Two lines. And when appropriate, Madam Chair, I'm happy to explain my amendment.
I'll call on you.
Thank you.
Senator from Raleigh, Senator Hawk, why don't you explain your amendment?
Sunset, 5 years.
Any questions? Senator from Johnson, Senator Olson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think, the senator from Manhattan has good intentions, but I just cannot support this amendment. Number one, when a gas company is going to go to invest, they're going to look at the life, and if it's 5 years, you're going to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in more transmission, bring more gas in. Serious. Right now, the reason why the wind is so successful in Kansas is because we got gas plants all around this state that they can turn the key on, and from 100 to 500 megawatts, it's running at 100% capacity in 5 minutes. When the wind dies down, they turn the key on, and it's up 100% capacity. If you start putting sunsets on bills like this, they're not going to invest the money to bring that gas in to meet the needs for them small generation plants that allow that wind to be built, let alone invest to bring the infrastructure in for the cities. What this bill does, the underlining bill, it allows competition. It just makes sure competition is there. It allows natural gas to compete with electric hot water tanks, electric heat. There's going to be places maybe in this state that electric will be cheaper. I don't know. There might be times electric will be cheaper because gas prices are so high. But it's a consumer choice. Allow the consumer to make that choice if they want electric or natural gas. But by putting a sunset on, I guarantee you it'll stop investment into this state. It's a bad idea. I ask the body not to support the sunset.
Senator from Riley, Senator Hawk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As is not often the case, I have a slightly different opinion from my fellow friend and senator from Johnson. Currently, we are in the same situation. Our gas companies have invested in our state. They've invested in our communities. And I think the question becomes whether or not we trust home rule and local control, as I mentioned before. I don't think in any way this bill really has any impact on peaking plants, which I think we absolutely need to keep our electricity, both our rates and the availability and reliability there. So I think and a 5-year sunset doesn't mean that the legislature in 5 years would throw this out. It likely means, unless there are big changes that we don't expect, that we'll continue this bill on. But I think some of us are likely not to be here in 5 years, and it becomes a reminder that we need to revisit this issue. We need to look and see if the landscape changes. It is mentioned that we have a new administration, and there may be some opportunities to do things that we'll discover over the next 5 years. And I personally am more comfortable having the accountability that we look at this issue again at that time and make sure we're still on the right path for consumer choice over home rule.
The carrier of the bill, Senator Thompson from Johnson. Did you want to respond to the amendment?
If I may, Madam Chair, yes. I concur with the remarks of Senator Johnson, Senator Olson. Sunset has the effect of limiting natural gas because people would not invest, developers would not invest to run those lines out to new subdivisions and would limit the opportunity for new natural gas or the natural gas choice to be made by new end users that move into that subdivision. The fair market will determine when and if ever natural gas goes away. The concerns of climate and CO2, I hate to get off on that tangent. I was a meteorologist for 40 years. I could speak to that and bore this body to death with facts and figures. And if we need to go down that path, I will. However, I would avoid that subject because I can bore you to death with it. My concern is that we continue to have the energy mix that we properly need in this state, and any sunset would limit that, and the free market's going to do its job. Madam Chair.
Senator from Johnson, we are not going to bring in a green screen, but we will go back to the senator from Riley, Senator Hawk.
Thank you, and I don't intend to get into climate change at this late hour. I thought my amendment would be so brief and tight that the debate would also be that.
Thank you for keeping it on the amendment. This time we call on the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I rise in strong opposition to this amendment. It's not just the investment that's in. We've learned that certainty in energy fields, when we did with the wind, when we give them tax certainty, we saw more investment in it. I believe this gives uncertainty for our natural gas folks. We heard today in committee that the gas infrastructure is aging and is going to need replaced. We need investment sooner rather than later. If they think there's a possibility a city may change, that may affect their decision. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator from Riley, Senator Hawk, did you want to respond?
No, I'll wait for my close.
Okay. Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for the senator from Johnson, if you would stand for it. Senator Thompson.
Senator Thompson. Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson. He will stand for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question was asked during the hearing of a representative from the Kansas Corporation Commission. Was it not true that these companies that are providing that natural gas are required to make that available to any customer in their district who wants it?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
I believe that is true, Madam Chair.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Because of that requirement, I don't think this could have any effect on development during the next 5 years. It would continue just as it has. Thank you.
Are there any further questions for the carrier of the amendment? Seeing none, you may move your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll remind the body of how complex this is. Sunset, 5 years, I close.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Nay. The amendment does not carry. We are back on. Division has been requested. All those in favor, please stand. I need everyone to stand. That is an aye. Please sit down. All those opposed, please stand. I need everyone that wants to be counted to please turn and face the chair so that they can be counted. On a vote of 9 ayes and 24 nays, the amendment does not pass. We are back on the base bill. Are there any additional questions for the carrier? Yes, the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise in strong support of this bill, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank those that worked on the amendments. They made this bill uniform, clarified what cities could do with their own buildings, and realized the importance of it enough to make it effective in the register. Thank you, Madam Chair.
This time I call on the senator from Johnson, Senator Olson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank the committee chair for all the work he did on the bill and getting it out and hearing it. I think this is great for Kansas. I think this will give us the competition that we need and guarantee that. I think this will show the gas companies we want them to invest in Kansas, and I think they'll keep the hot water tank lit. Thank you again.
Are there any other questions or comments for the senator from Johnson? Senator Thompson. Seeing none, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I do want to thank the committee for all their hard work. Everybody pitched in. We had a good discussion and considered all options on this bill, but it does do what it can to consider to continue to allow Kansans to have the option to choose natural gas going forward. As we have pointed out that some cities do want to consider going the renewables route, and without natural gas, it is impossible. So with that, Madam Chair, I move that when the committee rises and reports, it reports Senate Bill 24 favorably for passage.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The motion carries. At this time, the chair recognizes the majority leader from Sedgwick, Senator Suellentrop.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carried.
Clerk will read the committee report.
On motion of Senator Suellentrop, the Senate resolved itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of bills on the calendar under the heading of General Orders with Senator Baumgardner in the chair. Recommended, Senate Bill 40 be amended by the adoption of the committee report, be further amended on motion of Senator Kirshen, and the bill be passed as further amended. Senate Bill 38 and Senate Bill 24 be amended by the adoption of the committee reports, and the bills be passed as amended. Senate Resolution 1707 be adopted. Senate Bill 30 be passed over and retain a place on the calendar.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Miami, Senator Baumgardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move we adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Report's adopted. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader from Sedgwick, Senator Suellentrop.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move an emergency be declared, the rules suspended, and the following bills and resolution be advanced for final action and roll call. Senate Bill 40, Senate Bill 38, Senate Resolution 1707, and Senate Bill 24.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now ready for final action. On this roll call, we will take the following. The first four bills on the consent calendar, SB 1, SB 16, SB 39, and SB 53. And the bills and resolutions on page 4 and 5 of the calendar, SB 40, SB 38, SR 1707, and SB 24. The clerk will read the titles.
Senate Bill 1, an act concerning the Kansas State Fair. Senate Bill 16, an act concerning the Legislative Division of Post Audit. Senate Bill 39, an act concerning agriculture. Senate Bill 53, an act concerning charter commissions. Senate Bill 40, an act concerning agriculture. Senate Bill 38, an act concerning agriculture. Senate Resolution 1707, a resolution recognizing the need for the governor of Kansas to administer the COVID-19 vaccine to law-abiding Kansans before administering the vaccine to healthy incarcerated individuals. Senate Bill 24, an act concerning municipalities.
Clerk will call the roll.
Alley. Baumgardner. Billinger. Bowers. Clays. Corson. Dietrich. Dole. Erickson. Estes. Begg. Valscadeau. Francisco. Gossage. Haley. Hawk. Hildebrand. Holland.
No on 1707, no on 24. I'd like to explain my vote on 1707.
By rule, we're holding explanation till the end, but you will.
My apologies, Mr. President. I will hold. Thank you.
Holscher. Kirshen. Klaus. Longbine. Masterson. McGinn. Olson. O'Shea. Peck. Peterson. Petty. Pittman. Pyle. Steffen. Straub. Sullentrop. Sykes. Thompson. Tyson. Where? Warren. Wilborn.
Has every senator had an opportunity to vote? Senator from Brown. Does any senator wish to explain their vote? I'm going to go Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Senator President. I'll be brief. Dear Kansas citizens, your Senate Republican leadership has sadly let you down today. They have no solutions, so instead of working on a bipartisan manner to constructively address this deadly COVID pandemic that ravages the bodies and purse strings of the tens of thousands of afflicted Kansans, they have instead chosen to take cheap political shots at those state officials who are at least trying to ease our citizens' pain and suffering. I vote no on SR 1707. Thank you, Mr. President. I've asked to have my remarks spread in the Journal.
So ordered. Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. President. I vote no on Senate Bill 24. I understand the concerns, and I sympathize with many of them. However, this bill would limit a municipality from imposing a building code on new construction if it relates to natural gas service. This body failed to provide our municipalities with a way to enforce building codes that are necessary to protect the public health and safety of their residents. That is an inappropriate trade-off.
Senator from Wyandotte, Senator Haley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I'm going to change my aye on 24 to a no.
Are there further changes? Seeing none, the clerk will close the roll and tally the vote. "37 having voted in favor and none against, SB 1, SB 16, SB 40, and SB 53. 27 having voted in favor and 10 against, SB 24. 35 having voted in favor and 2 against, SB 38. 36 in favor and 1 against, SB 39. 28 in favor and 8 against, 1707. These measures, having received the constitutional majority, are hereby declared passed and adopted. Introduction of bills and concurrent resolutions, the clerk will read.
Senate Bill 146 by Committee on Transportation, an act concerning driver's licenses. Senate Bill 147 by Committee on Assessment and Taxation, an act concerning sales taxation. Senate Bill 148 by Committee on Assessment and Taxation, an act concerning community improvement districts. Senate Bill 149 by Committee on Assessment and Taxation, an act concerning property taxation. Senate Bill 150 by Committee on Judiciary, an act concerning legal services. Senate Bill 151 by Committee on Judiciary, an act concerning attorneys. Senate Bill 152 by Committee on Judiciary, an act concerning the Code of Civil Procedure. Senate Bill 153 by Committee on Local Government, an act concerning counties. Senate Bill 154 by Committee on Ways and Means, an act concerning home and community-based services. Senate Bill 155 by Committee on Ways and Means, an act concerning health and health care. Senate Bill 156 by Senator Holscher, an act concerning firearms. Senate Bill 157 by Senator Holscher, an act concerning elections. Senate Bill 158 by Committee on Transportation, an act concerning abandoned and disabled vehicles. Senate Concurrent Resolution 1606 by Committee on Local Government, a proposition to amend Article 9 of the Constitution of the State of Kansas by adding a new section thereto concerning home rule for counties. Senate Concurrent Resolution number 1607 by Senator Pyle, a proposition to amend Article 6 of the Constitution of the State of Kansas by creating a new section limiting the authority to close a school district or attendance center within a school district to locally elected boards of education.
This constitutes introduction of SB 146 through SB 158 and SCR 1606 and 1607. Reports of standing committees, clerk will read.
Mr. President, the Committee on Education recommends Senate Bill 61 be passed. Senator Baumgardner, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Assessment and Taxation recommends Senate Bill 22 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Senator Tyson, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Assessment and Taxation recommends Senate Bill 70 be passed, and because the committee is of the opinion that the bill is of a non-controversial nature, be placed on the consent calendar. Senator Tyson, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Transportation recommends Senate Bill 69 be passed, and because the committee is of the opinion that the bill is of a non-controversial nature, be placed on the consent calendar. Senator Peterson, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Transportation recommends Senate Bill 68 be passed, and because the committee is of the opinion that the bill is of a non-controversial nature, be placed on the consent calendar. Senator Peterson, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Transportation recommends Senate Bill 36 be amended, and the bill be passed as amended. Senator Peterson, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends Senate Bill 58 be passed. Senator Warren, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends Senate Bill 4 be passed, and because the committee is of the opinion that the bill is of a non-controversial nature, be placed on the consent calendar. Senator Warren, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends Senate Bill 56 be passed, and because the committee is of the opinion that the bill is of a non-controversial nature, be placed on the consent calendar. Senator Warren, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends Senate Bill 59 be passed, and because the committee is of the opinion that the bill is of a non-controversial nature, be placed on the consent calendar. Senator Warren, chairperson.
There having been objection to SB 70 appearing on the consent calendar, the bill will be removed and placed on general orders. Are there announcements? Senator from Johnson, Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Judiciary will be meeting tomorrow at our usual time in our usual room. We will be having a continuation of the hearing on Senate Bill 57. We'll be hearing from opponent conferees regarding statutory speedy trial right.
Senator from Cloud, Senator Bowers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Transparency and Ethics will meet tomorrow at 9:30 in room 142 South. We have 5 agency budget hearings. Tomorrow, we'll hear them and then deliberate within our 15 minutes. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Olson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Commerce will not meet tomorrow or Monday. We're going to hope the Chiefs win and everybody's still partying all Sunday and into Monday, and we'll pick it back up on Tuesday. Thank you.
Senator from Lyons, Senator Longbine.
Thank you, Mr. President. The FI&I committee will not meet tomorrow. They will not meet on Monday, but we will have a planning meeting for my vice chairs and my rankings at 1 o'clock on Monday.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Transportation Committee will not meet Friday or Monday. However, in your emails, you've received the Department of Transportation budget, which we will start taking up on Tuesday. Good reading.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Utilities will not meet tomorrow, but Monday we do have a budget hearing. And so cut your partying short if you're on utilities and show up at 1:30. Thank you, Mr.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Kirshen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Ag Natural Resources will not meet tomorrow or Monday. We have a budget meeting on. Thank you.
Senator from Sherman, Senator Billinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Ways and Means will meet tomorrow morning at 8:30, usual room. Thank you.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Public Health and Welfare Committee will have their hearing on Senate Bill 120 on Tuesday. We ran out of time today, so we will have that hearing on Tuesday. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Senator from Solontrop, Majority Leader. Senator from Sedgwick, Majority Leader Solontrop. I think that came out right.
Mr. President, I move the Senate adjourn pro forma until 8:30 a.m. Friday, February 5th, 2021.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Senate's adjourned.